Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. I thought today what I would do is tell you a story and share a pension ledger, which you've probably not seen before, and some pieces in it that some of you might find very interesting. So let's talk about another pension ledger you probably haven't seen before. The pension ledger I'm talking about is actually found in the Records of the Accounting Officers, Department of Treasury, Record Group 217 in the National Archives, and it's entry 586. And the story I wanted to tell you was about the first entry in this pension ledger. This is Porter Hanks. Porter Hanks was a first lieutenant of artillery, and he was killed at Detroit, 17 August 1812. And he left a widow. And this is the register of the payments of that widow, Margaret Hanks. She got a 5-year half-pay pension because her husband was killed in the War of 1812. But there's more to this story than that. Porter Hanks was the first lieutenant of artillery at Fort Mackinac. And before August of 1812, a Captain Roberts of the British Army and a portion of the British Navy on the lakes decided that they should get rid of Fort Mackinac. So one night they pulled a cannon up to the top of the hill at Fort Mackinac and pointed it down into the fort. And when Lieutenant Porter Hanks woke up in the morning, he was acquainted with this cannon that was aimed at the fort. Now, the fort really wasn't placed in such a way that it was designed to protect anything per se, because there obviously was this hill beside the fort that somebody could draw a cannon up on and point it down into the fort. That said, Porter Hanks immediately surrendered. No loss of life, no shots fired. He just surrendered. The first officer in the United States Army to ever do such a thing that I'm aware of. And he was captured by Captain Roberts and paroled, and he went to Detroit. The enlisted members of the fort became POWs, and I believe that they ended up in Ontario and Amherstburg. But I haven't actually been able to track that down totally yet, because I don't think I've seen any of our publications yet that have identified the records of Amherstburg. Porter is about to be court-martialed. He's in Detroit. General Hall is not very happy with him, having given up a fort on his northern flank. So they're having a court-martial. And they take a little recess, and Porter goes out on the stoop, the porch, the steps, whatever, about the same time that General Isaac Brock of the Canadian forces and British forces decides to start bombarding Detroit, which they would eventually successfully capture. Porter Hanks loses his head into a cannonball, or at least is killed by a cannonball, depending on who you talk to. And therefore, his court-martial abates because they no longer have anybody to punish. Since the court-martial never passed a sentence on Porter Hanks, and the court-martial didn't in fact abate, and he was killed in the line of duty, and he left a widow, that widow was entitled to a 5-year half-pay pension. And this is a record of her payments, or every 6 months, March and September of each year until 1818. So that's pretty cool. This register that it is found in is in entry 586, register of pension payments, 29 May 1813 to July 27, 1866. Now, this is pension ledger only exists in the National Archives. It's not one of the ledgers that is in fact on Ancestry, part of the 1818 to 1872 pension registers. They're arranged by name of deceased soldier, and they're under chronologically by date of payment, and they're indexed by surname of the deceased soldier. And there are some gaps, and the actual dates covered are 1813 to 1817, 1819, 1821 to 22, 1836 to 53, and 1856 to 1886. So there's a wide range of individuals here. But the beginning of the ledgers are 1812. And each entry shows the name and rank of the deceased soldier, like Porter Hanks, the unit he belonged to, the date and cause of death, and whether the soldier left a widow and or children, the date of pension payment to whom it was paid, the period covered in the amount. Now, in addition to this register, there are two other special sections in the book. There are payments to the heirs of the Regiment of Cherokee Warriors who were at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, and then pension payments made by the third auditor between 1821 and 1822. These are two separate sections in the pension ledger. And this is what the ledger looks like for the third auditor payments. And you can see it's the date, the name of the soldier, the name of the widow or children, and the period for which they're being paid. Usually when you look at this period being paid, the first date is actually the date of death of the soldier and how much they were paid and to whom it actually was paid. It may have been paid to somebody that was a lawyer, someone with a power of attorney, something like that, or it may have been paid to them directly. The second piece is the Cherokee Regiment of Warriors. And I've always had an interest in these guys. These, in fact, were the warriors at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. They killed or died of wounds on 27 March 1814. And I actually spent years looking for the payments to these guys outside of this initial piece. And I also remember years ago, a friend of mine, Laura Prescott, who used to work for Fold 3 prior to her passing, and she once contacted me about, did I know anything about the mouse? And the mouse is one of the Cherokee warriors who was listed on this as having died at Horseshoe Bend. And she did something on Fold 3 about the mouse. I had the pleasure of telling her that she'd met the mouse before because she was in one of my military courses years before where I had shown her the mouse and these other soldiers. So here are some of the names of some of the warriors who were killed at Horseshoe Bend. Now, I spent a very long time, I mean, almost 20 years, trying to figure out where the records for these payments to these Cherokee warriors might be. And lo and behold, one day I came across the records of the Cherokee Agency, and these are on Fold 3. So this is what those records actually look like. So basically, there's three pieces to this ledger. There's those soldiers for this wide expanse of time, and then that include individuals like Porter Hanks. And I actually have, I've abstracted all the information out of those registers. So don't know what to say, except I've abstracted all the information out of the registers. And it's in my War of 1812 known dead database. If you've got someone who died in the War of 1812, get in touch with me and I'll share with you the information that I have. But three pieces here, the regular soldiers, the short span of 21 to 22 soldiers paid by the third auditor, and then the Cherokee warriors from the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. So this has been Craig. This is sort of unique for me from the perspective of I spent a very long time trying to find the records of the Cherokee Agency, not knowing where they were, if in fact those records would apply to the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, because they're from the agency exists in a much later period, and it's in Tennessee, and Horseshoe Bend is not in Tennessee. That said, I will see you the next time I see you. If you haven't subscribed yet, I appreciate your subscribing. I especially appreciate those individuals that spend a lot of time listening to what I have to say. I'm thinking about this brought to my, in dealing with this today, it brought to my mind that I haven't given a talk on the Creek War in a long time. And I think what I'll do someday soon is put together the pieces for the Creek War, of which these Cherokee warriors were part of. So thank you so much again, and I will see you soon.